Greetings, Mark Garang here, publisher of The Sun. And my guest today on this December 9th, this very, very chilly morning is Michael Callis.
Yes, it is chilly.
Michael, how are you?
Great. Nice to be in your nice warm setting here.
Yeah, that's not bad. So Michael is we're going to call you an historian, because you are.
Well, I'm a student of history.
You're a student of history, but you're well known. You live on the Conway-Eaton line.
Yeah.
You've run for various elected offices, including Congress.
Sure.
And you're very engaged politically, but one of your avocations, I guess, is New Hampshire history. And at the very end, I'm going to mention this, but you also are very interested in Gottfried Frankenstein, the painter, and that's why the Frankenstein trestle was made. So that's a little teaser, something we can talk about at the end. But what we're going to talk about now is your interest in the New Hampshire Liberty penny. And the background, of course, is they were heading 250th next year. Ken Burns's documentary is airing now. I'm sure some people have seen it. So, New Hampshire Liberty penny, Michael, we're going to show a photo of it so you know what we're looking at.
Right. Okay, this you can see the writing on the left of the pine tree, American, and excuse me, and then Liberty on the other side. And this was a copper coin that was commissioned by the House of Representatives a couple of months before the Declaration of Independence. We had to have a legislature at the time because the governor had, the royal governor abandoned New Hampshire, and we had to have a form of law. So the first thing they did was they wanted to do a commission for the studying of this coin.
Now, was the coin, I mean, so the coin, like, was the penny, was it a commemorative thing, or was it actually currency?
Can you show it up again? Because, yeah, right here, you see, this is the part that is important for the symbolism. The bottom, it's 1776, and that's the Phrygian cap. And the Phrygian cap, it's, think of the Smurfs. Think of, better yet, think of the Mercury dime. And think of Lady Liberty, and in the White House at the Dome, if they haven't torn it down yet for renovations, it shows Liberty with the Phrygian cap.
And what is the?
There's the Phrygian cap again.
What is the Phrygian cap?
It was a symbol. What it was actually, the way we'll go back in context of American liberty. It represents the Red Bonnet Rebellion from 1675.
Which is why that woman has a red bonnet? No.
Well, it's typically, it would be red.
Right, but there's a red bonnet there.
Yes, and that shows the Phrygian cap. That shows the shape. You would see that as the hat on the Mercury dime. Now, excuse me?
Yeah, okay. No, I was just going to say, is she, and this black woman who's probably a slave,
right?
Is she wearing it because it represents freedom to her?
Well, actually, the history of the Phrygian cap goes back to the Greeks and the Romans, and it was usually on a pole. And then when somebody was freed, they were tapped with the pole, and they were given the Phrygian cap.
How do you spell it?
To wear. It's Phyrgian.
Phrygian.
Yeah, Phrygian.
Huh.
Cap.
What is that Roman? Is that Latin or Roman, or what is that?
Well, it goes back to Phrygia. It is actually an area, but that's not what I'm focused on. I don't want to get off on the history of
it's interesting.
I want to do, and that's what happens, is that people get lost trying to read history into something that's very immediate to Paul Revere. It was immediate to Paul Revere because it represented a rebellion in France that happened in 1675, where they were protesting a Stamp Act tax, just like the colonial.
You mean the France's Stamp Act?
Yes, they had a Stamp Act. This is history. This is what happened, and this is why Paul Revere used that symbol. It wasn't about freeing the slaves, obviously.
Right.
It was about taxation. The whole revolution was about taxation. American liberty is about the tax code. It's all about the taxes. They wanted representation, and that was the end. That was the beginning and the end of the revolution. They wanted and guess what? Slaves didn't pay taxes, so they weren't part of the. They weren't part of the what they were dealing with.
Right, but they had
they were concerned with the country, and they're also talking about slavery. They also knew that in order to end slavery in America, you had to have a war, and they didn't want to have two wars at the same time.
Who was saying that? Who was saying the Brits?
It would be Paul Revere and Ben Franklin and the ones that were.
Right, but you just said they weren't interested. They weren't. It wasn't all about freeing the slaves at all.
No, no, it was about taxes.
And the taxes, because they had just finished the French and Indian War, 1763.
Right, they wanted to pay.
But the Brits had to, because it was so expensive, they put a tax on the colonials to pay for that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there was the Stamp Act, and there was the.
That's right. It was the Stamp Act, the same thing that happened in France, and that's now Paul Revere. He does the Sons of Liberty, and he has a silver bowl, and it's famous
because he was a silversmith, right?
Yeah, and he had a silver bowl, and on the silver bowl he shows that pole with the Pilius, P-I-L-I-U-S, or no, I'm sorry, it's P-I-L-E-U-S.
Okay.
Pilius. The Pilius cap is very starchy and it is kind of shaped like an egg. And it says on the bowl, it says John Wilkes, because they want you to focus on John Wilkes. And John Wilkes is very known in Britain for leading a rebellion against taxes. So it goes, the immediate symbolism is taxes.
Okay, so let's bring it up. So now we're in New Hampshire.
Right.
They mint that thing. And how many of those coins do they mint? And
there's probably in the vicinity of 5 to 9 known, and they're cast. And
wait a minute, 5 to 9 known now, or
yes.
5 to 9 that were minted?
No. There could have been thousands, but or 20. But somewhere in between.
Well,
if you look at the official numbers, this one's for sale right now for 192,000.
Really? Where's that one from? The picture that you have, is that just
that's
out of a
from
magazine?
the Smithsonian.
All right. So
and going back to that, there's something significant because on one side you have the pine tree right there. When you flip it over, you don't have the harp. You have the cap. Show us the next one. This is from the Smithsonian. They have it the right way. That's the way it's supposed to be.
What's
seen.
the other one?
And the other one is a harp. And now when the New Hampshire legislature writes down, they say we want a harp on one side. But can we show the text, the one with the text? Yes. See, now they show what they want, and they show something that looks more like a helmet, like the way the Smithsonian shows it, the way it happens when you flip the coin over. It shows the outline of the Phrygian cap, also kind of like the cap of Athena, which is a very important
okay, so this says the House of Representatives, March 13th. Is this our house?
Yes, yes. This is in the New Hampshire house.
Okay, so let's, in general, so you said there are how many of these coins around now?
So right now there's probably 9 that are
where
known.
are they?
You can go and Google it and find out. I didn't write down all.
No. I mean, are they in private collections?
Well, the Smithsonian has one.
New Hampshire?
I know that for sure.
Does the house?
New Hampshire doesn't have one, and they should probably go out and get that one.
Wow. So there must be like in private collections or somewhere? Or you said you could go on eBay and buy one for $200,000?
192,000, and it has a whole history of Providence about, you know, the people that owned it and so forth. And
so they minted this thing. The House of Representatives, mandates that this thing. And what do they do with them back then? I mean, was it just symbolic that they were? Like, what did they literally do with the coins in 1776?
The document from that period, from the New Hampshire House of Representatives, the document was if you can read the writing on it, it was a commission for a penny, a 1776 penny. And what I'm trying to show is that the symbolism of the Liberty cap that's on the currencies, more than just the Mercury dime. It's on many, whenever you see Lady Liberty, she's usually got the Phrygian cap. And the significance of that symbolism shouldn't be lost when you look at the New Hampshire American Liberty penny and the way the House of Representatives drew it. And if you go and you look at the 1775 colonial currency, the paper currency, it shows a harp without a crown.
What's the significance of a harp?
In all the different pennies, the halfpence, King George, they would show the harp with a crown on top. And the harp represented harmony, okay, under the crown. Okay. So the significance of the crown, the Phrygian cap is replacing the crown. That's like you see the crown, you see the skull and crossbone, you know, you put a stamp there and it means death.
Right.
And it really did.
Right, so we have that.
Yeah, you show that. See, so you got the crown on top, then you got the skull and crossbone, because if you put the stamp there, you're going to die, and that's actually what happened. Is that you know, it was a bloody war. So, and there's the Phrygian cap on the bottom. So in essence, they're saying we got a new crown here, and that's the symbolism that's going around the Phrygian cap when they drew it, they drew it so that it looked like the Phrygian cap that they were bringing to show we didn't have a flag. We needed something
now, is that,
to rally around.
Is that image a composite of 3 different images, or is that the image?
No, that's the image that's attributed to Paul Revere.
Okay, you bring in a Paul Revere all the time. Why?
Because he's the one who began using the symbolism. And if you go to why, it was in the masthead of his papers, and it's in the currency and so forth, and so it seems to be Paul Revere that's promoting these images that go to the issue of taxes.
Okay.
And they both do, and that's their slavery. Their slavery is to the IRS.
To the Brits.
Well, it's just the idea of taxation without representation. Right. Yeah.
What motivated New Hampshire to get involved?
Where in New Hampshire? You had the Pine Tree Rebellion, and that was about taxes. That was about, you know, money, you know, and so forth. So it was there was a revolt here. New Hampshire led the way in the Revolution. Right. And one of the other symbolisms, I give this in, you know, in my talks, that if you look, you'll see the triangle with the Eye of Providence, and New Hampshire is on the top. It points to New Hampshire. You'll see in the Revolutionary flag for the 2nd Regiment. It's famous. It has a series of 13 circles. And New Hampshire is at the top.
Why is that?
It's because it was designed by Enoch Poor for the 2nd Regiment. And it was a New Hampshire regiment. And they put New Hampshire at the top. Also, it could be geography. Some people argue geography. But no, New Hampshire had a special place in the Revolution. It was, excuse me?
No, thank you. But I mean, I was going to say General John Stark, right?
Yes.
Famous New Hampshire. Now, he's buried in southern New Hampshire somewhere, right?
Yes.
But does he have any connection here? I've always heard about the Stark Road.
Well, it's funny. I grew up in the Manchester area. We used to go to the Stark Park during high school, you know, because it was close by. It's right in Manchester. Yeah. But there's an interesting thing on. There's also a seal that shows the Phrygian cap, and I have it. It's at the New Hampshire Historical Society, and the motto is "Live free or die." And General Lafayette has a medal that's out in conjunction with the Declaration of the Rights of Man, live free or die.
In general,
it's in French.
Right.
But it's his translation of Patrick Henry, "Give me liberty or give me death," because that's when he was inspired to come over. It was after. Well, that's when he came over. It was right after Bunker Hill, and Patrick Henry was the focus of that.
I mean, General John Stark, didn't he? I mean, he did a lot. I mean, he was like a true hero at Bunker Hill, right?
Oh, right.
And then he went on to fight some other campaigns, but didn't he get kind of like looked over for being something, and he just said, I was done? What's the story? Is there a story there?
Well, I know John Stark from the story, mainly from Live Free or Die.
Right.
And it was a toast that...
Is there any connection to Stark Road?
Oh, I'm sure it's named after.
Okay, because I thought there was a little cemetery off of Stark Road, and there's a couple of headstones and something related to him.
That would, I bet Bill Marvel would be the perfect one.
He's on his way to Boston actually this morning.
Yes.
So
yeah.
Otherwise,
he's a historian.
No,
Yeah.
All right, so
I'm a student.
You're a student. Okay, so we've talked about the significance of the penny, right? The Liberty penny.
Yes.
And what it meant and so what did and so I guess I go back to the question, what did they do with it? What did they actually, when it was minted, and where was it?
It really, technically, I don't think it was minted because it was cast.
Okay, cast.
Okay, and they did 10. And if you read the document, they're asking for a molten that's the name of a silversmith that lived in next to Hampton, to make something that they will approve. So that's might explain, but really I think the authority on that would be Stacks and Bowers. They're a big
and how did you get interested? I mean, you've been a student of history in New Hampshire. How did you get interested in this particular?
Well, I belong to the Colonial Coin Collectors Club, and I would like to mention their newsletter, because I have several articles in the newsletter dealing with the tokens and symbolism. I don't necessarily collect them, but and I tell them that I'm interested in the symbolism and doing the research on the tokens, and they graciously allow me to publish some articles.
I mean, there are colonial era coins around here. Like, I know at the Westons, like the young man at the Weston's farm.
Yes.
He's found some colonial rivets and coins out in the field.
Now, there's a big movement now for metal detectors and digging up. And there's articles in the Colonial Coin Collectors Club, the 4C, that actually features metal detecting finds. And one recent one was a very rare coin that was made an important part of that.
So when you do your presentation, here we talk about the Liberty coin, what else do you bring into it in general? Like what other, do you move it up to more other parts of the Revolution with the New Hampshire's role?
It was basically New Hampshire, going back to the time of Darby Field, has a fascinating history, and it's one of the Freemasons. You used to see in every town there was a little blue sign to tell you where the Masonic Hall was, But
and Darby Field, by the way, except for Darby Field Inn, which people knew from years ago, he was the first white person to climb Mount Washington.
Yes, yeah. And what's fascinating about Darby Field, because I've researched him a great deal. I'm actually a footnote in Nicholas Howe's Not Without Peril.
Right, and Nicholas Howe lived in Jackson. Was a columnist
right.
for us. Yeah.
But
Nick.
Like Darby Field and people don't realize if you follow his genealogy, he's related to a reverend minister, famous John Field, that collated the Book of Martyrs. And at one time, one of his kids, I guess again, was picked out by the king to be Shakespeare's plays. And I believe it's a way of keeping him in line, the father. And he went on to, he's Nathan Field, and he's known, as you can see paintings of him, because he took Shakespeare's place on stage. These are relations to Darby Field. And Darby Field was an Indian interpreter that got these deeds along with Captain Underhill. And then Captain Underhill was another one that was responsible for these Indian deeds. And Captain Underhill, like Darby Field, had a bishop that was related to him, and in this case it was Bishop Underhill. But the thing with Underhill was he conveyed new place to Shakespeare. And we know about this because of the court records. But the bottom line is that both of these, Captain Underhill and Darby Field, have a very influential history, and that was continued over here.
When did Darby Field climb Mount Washington?
In 1642, you know.
1642.
Yeah, and he was sent over here because Champlain was captured, and he was captured with a map, and the map showed the Northwest Passage just on the other side of Mount Washington. So they started the Laconia Company, and there was a transfer of properties from France to Great Britain because of this. And then there was no Northwest Passage. And Darby Field was the one sent over to find it. And that's why he climbed Mount Washington.
Wow.
And, you know, and he came up right through Crawford Notch. And
yeah, you've read Lookout Mountain, right? It's Lookout Mountain. Is that the book with by what's his name, Cannon, about colonial times and you know, the colonial? I'm just off the top of my head, and
yeah,
it's a great story about how they go through Tamworth and all these areas.
Really,
I'll
have to look
in the
it up.
1700s,
Yeah.
and it's just, I think it's called, yeah, it's Lou Cannon. Lou Cannon,
Yeah.
I think it is. Lookout Mountain's very famous. I'm surprised you don't know that one.
Well, actually, I'm more involved in the weeds here. You know, I like to do document searches,
Yeah.
and then now with the word search and all that.
Well,
and
see, I'm throwing you a loop because I'm asking you all these general questions because I don't know any of the specifics.
Yeah.
So how important was New Hampshire in the Revolution?
It was extremely important. Yeah. In symbolism, in the symbolism of the war, right there with Paul Revere. In that Liberty Cap, the Phrygian cap, and that to me and everybody else should understand that it really was about the taxes. I find that kind of profound, you know, because I'm always seeing American liberty on the penny, and I said, what is American liberty? What is American? And I finally found out what it was. It was no taxes without representation. This was very important to them. It was critical. So it wasn't,
it's not just a trite expression, there's no taxes.
Right. And not only that, but I mean, it sounds kind of callous if I say this, but the slaves didn't pay taxes, so they weren't part of the equation. You know, the part they were of the equation was, this is something that is going to cause a war to get resolved, and history shows that was the case.
Did you watch? We only have 5 minutes left, believe it or not.
Sure.
So have you been watching? Of course, this is all about 1776, our country's 250th, and of course,
Yeah.
Ken Burns has this documentary on American Revolution on PBS, and have you watched it?
Oh yes, I've been watching it. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure other people who've seen this are watching it. It is a bit of a slog to get through. You know, there are no photos for one thing, so it's all the Ken Burns effect on paintings and stuff. But it's interesting about the slavery because the slaves also fought for the Brits because they represented freedom because
Right.
Britain had outlawed slavery, and then they also, some of them fought for the rebels, the patriots, because places like Pennsylvania in their state, territory, not territory, what were they? Colony declaration, they were against slavery even back then. But it really wasn't, slavery didn't become an issue until after the American Revolution. I mean, obviously, George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, they all had slaves during the Revolution.
Right. Well, I think you find it, I found this interesting that if you go way back, it was Georgia was one of the first places that wanted to free the slaves. And if you know, I don't want to leave that hanging.
I was going to say, geez.
But there was a time, it was like, then during the war in England, in Great Britain, you had a man named Sanchez who was a composer, who was a man of letters, who had a business. He was black, and he voted in the parliamentary elections. That was in 1776. And but you know who couldn't vote? Women. Women couldn't vote. You know, so.
Well, that was part of the original declaration. Was that whatever part of it was that it's for property owners.
Yeah. And another interesting point, and I like to leave my last 2 cents on this, is that the colonial penny, the half penny, because the penny was too big, the half pence, the half pence had King George III on it. King George III wrote, when he was young, Prince, he wrote an anti-slavery letter. And then he married a mulatto woman. And then in 1806, he approved the anti-slavery law that came. And then on our penny, you have Abraham Lincoln. And these are bookend because Abraham Lincoln passed a law in which, you know, the end of slavery. And the issue to me is you had slavery, you had white people owning black people owning white people, and but it was the law, the anti-slavery law, that was the solution that we find.
Yeah. Well, it's a good, my history, I'm not a historian like you or a student like you are, but Nathaniel Philbrick has a book called Bunker Hill, which I read years ago, and it's really good. But it's all about Boston. So the good thing, if people haven't seen the Ken Burns thing, it is a slog. It's pretty dull, you know. But you know, it really shows. You know, for us in New England here, it's all about Boston. But most of the American Revolution was fought in the South. I mean, they said one of the things that take away, because I just finished watching it, was that 1/5 of all the casualties in the whole American Revolution was were in South Carolina. I mean, they were slaughtering each other.
You know, if I could just bring this to the here and now as we get towards the end, is that the message in the revolution was an anti-tax message, and I got a message for Trump.
Oh, no.
Tax the robots.
Okay. On that, I just want to say
a couple
things before you go. One is that you have very interested in Gottfried Frankenstein, who's a painter.
And George.
And George, his brother.
Yep.
And that's why Frankenstein's Trestle is Frankenstein's Trestle.
Right.
In the Crawford Knight. And so I'd like to have you back, show some images, because it's a fascinating story. And the other thing is that you're available for presentations.
Yes.
And for Santa Claus appearances.
Well, where's my hat?
I know.
No, you made me take it off.
Yeah. Anyway, Michael.
Okay.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Yeah. I should have mentioned we're good friends.